In recent months, I've been making my own original Monster Collector RPG project, taking lots of ideas and inspirations, especially from Pokemon anime, since Pokemon is a franchise I love so much and hold so dearly, given it has arguably been and I am also making sure to take tons of notes on the good game design of Yokai Watch 3, an absolutely fantastic monster collector, all while learning to code and program in Python, which is basically what Godot uses. And as I've been working on this project, I started to notice I care more about things I didn't care about as much before as I worked towards the craft, such as designing feminine monsters with various kinds of appeal, using ideas from monsters from games I played as a kid. Not just because I want to, but because designing monsters that way proves to be very marketable, but also because spitting in the eye of Puritan, know-nothing, unresearched, woke Twitter freaks seems to be an incredibly intelligent business decision if you are an independent game developer. That being said, one thing I'm starting to really care more about is naming a monster. I want to put a lot of efforts into names for monsters that work, and I learned it is important to save the naming process for last, thanks to the engineering expertise from the cartoon Dilbert.
Step 1, the name.
The name is the last thing you do.
Oh, use some common sense, son. If you don't know something's name, how do you know what to build?
Focus groups.
Market research.
Detailed user specifications.
And the name...
Do you think the guy who invented the mouse pad started with the name? What's a mouse pad?
Feminine protection for mice.
And because I'm starting to take the naming process a lot more seriously, there are two Pokemon in particular that I think were done incredibly dirty in terms of names. Those being Exeggcute and Exeggutor. The more you look into a lot of Pokemon's original Japanese names, the more you realize how generic a lot of these names actually are, which makes sense when you consider how many game design decisions were influenced by the Dragon Quest games that the developers loved, since most monster names from that series follow a simple generic fantasy kind of thing. Exeggcute and Exeggutor aren't much of an exception to this, but I really think the English localized names could have been way better. Exeggute's Japanese name is Tamatama, and Exeggutor's is Nasi.
Who are you calling a Nazi?
According to Bulbapedia, Tamatama may be derived from tamago for egg, or tamatama for unexpectedly. Assuming this is true, then a way better English name is right there, Unexpected, which is way more fitting of their lore anyway, since these guys are just a bunch of angry seeds, which you would not expect since they just look like eggs. And since the original Japanese name is a lot sillier, I'd say it's a lot more fitting than trying to make them sound scary with a more menacing word like Exeggcute. Then you have Exeggutor, with Kokonatsu for coconuts, and Yashi for palm tree. Notice that there is no egg pun here. By all original intent, it is a bunch of talking coconuts on a palm tree. So if you really wanted to keep the egg pun, do you know what would have worked better? Yolkonuts. Think about that. Yolkonuts.
It's funny!
English localization has left you robbed and deceived like a complete and utter fool. I get it though. In the grand scheme of things, it's probably not that important. A silly mishmash of English is probably going to be more relatable to general audiences, especially since not everyone is going to immediately appreciate a pun in a completely foreign language. Though bear in mind there are mascot monsters whom keep their completely unchanged Japanese names, certain monsters keeping their Japanese names for seemingly no reason, and it's not like every Pokemon English name is terrible, in my humble opinion, but I still want to be really satisfied with the naming process. Now, let us sit back and watch the Pokemon Company lose billions in revenue, thanks to a random nerd making a stupider English pun 30 years after the fact.